RTI expands its shortwave Russian broadcast to Ukraine and Russia, and I speak with the head of RTI's Russian service about what listeners are saying.
We hear from a Ukrainian man who left Taiwan to help refugees at the Poland-Ukraine border.
Stash tells you all about the spike in COVID cases in Taiwan.
And in #Taiwan, Cardi B tells you why she recommends Taiwanese dessert. This is Taiwan Insider.
Welcome to the show. RTI has just expanded its shortwave Russian broadcast to Ukraine and Russia. And with me today is the head of the Russian service, Masha Lee. It's great to have you here, Masha.
Thank you, Natalie.
It's been a difficult time for you and your service, seeing all that's happening with the Ukraine war. Tell us about the kind of content that you've been giving the people in Russia and Ukraine during the war.
Well, since our mission is to report on the news in Taiwan, what's happening here, so our angle is always the angle of Taiwan. So we always talk about the reactions of Taiwan government and the Taiwanese, and how Taiwan stands with Ukraine and how Taiwan helps Ukraine. We also talk a lot about the anti-war protests that happen here in Taiwan and about the activism, and we interview lots of those people who've been to those protests just to show our listeners that Taiwan feels for them, that people in Taiwan really want to help. And I'm also very happy to say that when we go to those protests, apart from Ukrainians there are lots of people from other countries, and also including Russians, and there are some Russian activists who also participate in those events. And I really do hope that our listeners in Ukraine just feel a little bit better during those horrible times. And as you just said, that it's been difficult for us, we're fine, we're not being bombed, we're here, we're safe, we're in Taiwan. And people in Ukraine are really suffering a lot now, and I do hope that we can help.
I know you've been getting some letters from listeners in Ukraine. Can you tell us about those?
We do, and we're very grateful to our listeners who are still listening to our programs, even regardless of what's happening with them right now. And actually, after the war started, we kind of reached out to our Ukrainian listeners and wrote to them and asked if they're safe, because, those people have been writing to us for years. We've been kind of knowing each other for years. They've been listening to our programs for a long, long time. And some of them have replied. And for example, here I have a couple of letters from a listener of ours. His name is Alexander, and he lives in the eastern part of Ukraine. And he just wrote us last week. It was our Russian service 28th birthday on March 28th. So it was kind of a special date. And so he just congratulates us with our birthday and saying that he's been listening to our programs for 25 years, since 1996. Yeah, and so he wrote to us a couple of weeks ago that when I asked him if they were safe, and he said, well, yes, basically we're safe, but we hear the racket from artillery that's not far away, and some neighboring villages that are occupied and are being shot at, and the bridges are ruined, destroyed, and lots of people are leaving, especially women with kids. And he just said that we're people, we're older people, we just decided to stay no matter what. If we are to die, we will just die on our land. And that was really, really sad, But then he says, but we still believe that sooner or later the peace will come and our life will be back to normal. And we really hope that we can stand together. We are optimistic. That's what he writes. And then last week, actually, he wrote something that maybe made me a little bit happier. He said that it's now better where I live. It's much quieter now, and people are uniting together, and they're helping each other with food, with medicine, with other stuff, and there are lots of volunteers. He just says, I really want to believe that the peace will come back to our land. And I'm very grateful to our listeners our Ukrainian listeners who are still, writing to us during those horrible times. I'm also very grateful to Russian listeners who support what we do as well, and some of them also write to us that kind of thanking us for covering the Ukrainian news in Taiwan, because we can't really say what's happening in Ukraine because RTI doesn't have correspondents there, so we can only rely on other media. But what we can say and what our mission is here is to just tell people what Taiwan thinks and where Taiwan stands, and Taiwan stands with Ukraine, and I'm very happy about it.
So you have listeners in Russia too that are supporting the Ukrainians?
Yes, we do. Not all of them, but some of them do.
And how has it been for you as a journalist, as a Russian journalist? Because I know that actually you could be punished, right, for reporting the wrong side, the wrong story about the war.
Well, we're here in Taiwan. Here we're not yet punished. We're encouraged to say the truth here, and we just, I know that truth is a scary thing to many people, and that's why I think what we see in Russia, people are just too scared to see the truth. But people in Ukraine are scared of bombs, and I think there's a huge difference, and you just need to see the truth. I don't know what happens if I go back to Russia. I don't plan going back anytime soon, so who knows? Anything can change. Anything is possible now. That's what this whole thing just taught me. I just got the lesson of my life. Anything is possible, which is not necessarily optimistic.
Well, we're hoping for the best, right?
Yes, we do.
And you are doing great work. Congratulations on the 20th anniversary of the
thank you.
Russian service, and thank you for all the great work you're doing.
Thank you, Natalie.
I've been speaking with Masha Lee, who is the head of our Russian service here at RTI. You can catch the news in 11 languages on the RTI website.
The RTI English Service's very own Tomasz Koper spoke with Ukrainian Olek Novovignovsky, who left his job at the Taipei European School to go help Ukrainian refugees at the Polish border. Here's their conversation.
My name is Olek. I'm Ukrainian. When the war started, and I call it by its name, the war between Russia and Ukraine started, I was in Taiwan. I live and work in Taiwan for the last 2 years. The life for me, for my family, and just, I'm sure for many people in the world, just turned upside down. Everything was wrong. I felt completely helpless, completely useless, if I can put it that way. And then my wife said, and it just came idea, like, just pack my bags and come here and help wherever I can. So I went there, I registered as a driver, registered as the helper, and basically started from just cleaning the floor, tidying up beds, then being translator, English, Ukrainian, Russian, taking people to train station, back to the border, from the border to the hotel. I mean, I've done more than 2,000 K already. And just even simple talk to people in Ukrainian, and, that's even that is help.
Well, have you met other volunteers who came from far and wide? I mean, you flew 8,000 kilometers to be at the Ukrainian-Polish border. Have you met other people who have traveled great distances?
Absolutely. People from all over the world. Sweden, Germany, from United States, from pretty much from all over the world.
Since you live in Taiwan, I was curious about what you feel about the Taiwanese reactions to the war in Ukraine.
Well, on that question, first of all, I want to, from bottom of my heart, to thank Taiwanese people, Taiwan government, Mayor of Taipei. I want to thank you, Taiwan, for help they already offered. And they did, one of the first countries, they offered help right from the beginning of the war. Thank you to Taiwan Stands with Ukraine group and Ukrainian in Taiwan for protest, for collecting funds and helping to bring this horror with every donation, with every aid, helping to bring this to faster to the end.
Up next, Staś Butler tells you about the most recent COVID spikes here in Taiwan and what the government plans to do moving forward.
A new wave of COVID-19 infections is sweeping across Taiwan. Today, authorities reported 382 new local cases, and that wasn't a one-off spike. Looking at the 7-day average, it's clear daily cases have been climbing steadily since about late March. To be clear, this wave of COVID infections isn't as big as the one Taiwan went through last summer when daily cases peaked at over 800 a day. Back then, Taiwan went into a soft lockdown for several months, but this time it looks like things are different. On Monday, Premier Su Tseng-chang began talking about a new Taiwan model of COVID response. He described it as living normally, actively preventing outbreaks, and steadily reopening. And President Tsai Ing-wen laid the model out in simple terms on her Twitter account. She says the aim is to eliminate and prevent severe cases while effectively controlling mild cases. So what makes this wave different from last summer? Well, the biggest change is in vaccinations. Taiwan had barely started vaccinating people when COVID struck last year. Now, almost 80% of people in Taiwan have had at least 2 vaccine doses, and nearly half have also had a booster. The issue is Taiwan's vaccination rate for older people is not where it could be. Sure, more than half of elderly people have had a booster, but almost a quarter are still completely unvaccinated. That's a serious problem. Look, for example, at Hong Kong, where lots of people aged 80 and over are unvaccinated. When unvaccinated people that age caught COVID in the recent Omicron wave, 1 in 8 of them died. If the same thing happened in Taiwan, that would mean more than 20,000 deaths. Right now, the government says Taiwan can keep COVID under control and let people live a normal life. And that's a relief for people who want to travel and for businesses too. But as Hong Kong shows, with so many elderly people unvaccinated, there's still a lot at stake. Next up, in #Taiwan, Leslie introduces one American rapper's love for Taiwanese dessert.
This week, we are talking about the Taiwanese dessert chain Meat Fresh. Have you heard of it? Odds are you might have, because it's a huge international brand with stores in Asia, Australia, New Zealand, Canada, the UK, and the United States. If you haven't had it, well then let me tell you, they specialize in milk teas, jellies, ices, bean soups, taro balls, tofu pudding. I know, it doesn't sound too appetizing, but trust me, those things are all very beloved in Taiwan. And as I've mentioned before, Meat Fresh has many stores in other countries, so people worldwide are warming up to their offerings. The latest prominent figure to voice her love for Meat Fresh is none other than American rapper Cardi B. Cardi B loves Meat Fresh so much that she took to social media to profess just how much she enjoys their food. First, she complimented the store's packaging.
Meat Fresh around UCLA got really good milk tea, boba tea, and I love the skinny packaging. See how cute it is? Because it's so skinny. I love it. I love that for me.
You see? She loves that for her. Cardi B then praised the dishes for being kid-friendly and then urged her followers to try Meat Fresh for themselves.
You got kids and your kids like sweets, I recommend you to get these type of things because it's sweet but not too much.
Cardi B has 2 kids, so it's good to know that she has her children's well-being on her mind. After that, as if she had some great epiphany, Cardi B realized she may have discovered the fountain of youth.
You know, this is why these Asian they live long. Asian living long. That's why they be reaching like 114 years old, because they don't really do too much. They don't really use a lot of sugar. And everything, they incorporate tea and beans on the like, this is really good. You will love it.
Now, I don't know about the whole living to 140 thing, but I think Cardi B might be onto something. It's true, Taiwanese desserts are not as sweet as other desserts. Many times when I want to introduce Western desserts to my Taiwanese friends, they criticize them for being too sweet, as if that could be a thing. But Cardi B may have a point when she says lower sugar content may attribute to better overall health. Meat Fresh's social media page in China took notice of Cardi B's shout out and used the momentum to do a giveaway. Meat Fresh USA told people to follow Cardi B's lead and to buy Meat Fresh for their kids. I mean, love that for her. And finally, before we go back to the studio, here are a look at the other stories that are on our radar.
The U.S. State Department has approved a $95 million sale of the Patriot air defense system to Taiwan. This is the third U.S. arms sale to Taiwan under President Joe Biden and the second this year. According to the Pentagon, the package includes training, planning, deployment, operation, and maintenance of the air defense system. Taiwan's defense ministry says it expects the U.S. Congress to approve the sale in a month's time. The Taiwan-made horror film Incantation has reached 100 million NT dollars at the domestic box office. This spine-chilling paranormal tale is filmed in the style of a documentary and based on a true story from 17 years ago. It has become the highest-grossing Taiwanese film this year and the biggest earning locally made horror film since the Tag-Along 2. Multiple reports say the United States House Speaker Nancy Pelosi will visit Taiwan on Sunday. Japan's Fuji News Network and Taiwan's United Daily News say Pelosi had intended to stop in South Korea after her upcoming trip to Japan but decided to change her plans and visit Taiwan instead. The reports say the visit is intended to show U.S. support for Taiwan amid threats from Beijing. Pelosi would be the first sitting U.S. House Speaker to visit Taiwan since Newt Gingrich in 1997. Taiwan's foreign ministry has not confirmed the visit.
Well, it's great to see how some celebrities are discovering how great our desserts are here in Taiwan.
I mean, what's not to love?
So the question of the day is, what is your favorite Taiwanese dessert? Leslie?
Mine, I'm going to go with a classic. I like tangyuan. And these
Can't go
are
wrong with that.
sticky rice balls filled with either peanut or sesame. I love anything with peanut.
Yeah.
You drizzle a little bit of osmanthus tea over it, and it's really good.
That
so
sounds
that's my
really
favorite.
good.
That is a good one.
Good in the
actually,
winter time too.
Very
I
nice.
should have
Very
thought of
nice.
that. Okay,
How
my
about you,
one,
Stash?
I've gone for another classic, which is babu.
What is that?
It's like ice cream.
Instead of ice cream trucks, Taiwan has ice cream bikes.
Exactly. So the sound, the
called
word
babu.
babu comes from the sound of like the horn going babu, babu, babu. I love it. It's great.
Really? Well, I love these days in the wintertime grass jelly with taro balls and boba. I just had one last week and there's a picture of it right now. It's very delicious. I love how chewy it is, and then it's just like this thick soup that's not too sweet.
It's a winter dessert.
It's a winter
I think,
dessert. It's
yeah.
very comforting in the wintertime. Lots of flavors and textures in there. Very good. So anyways, well, thanks for tuning in to Taiwan Insider. For Taiwan Insider, I'm Natalie Tso.
I'm Leslie Liao.
I'm Staś Butler. Make sure you follow us on our social media channels. You can catch us on Facebook and YouTube.
And if you've had Taiwanese dessert, let us know which one you like below.
Yeah, send us a message on any of those platforms. And just to say hi if you like. Anyway, guys, until next week, we'll see you around.